I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
This week, we return to the world of the Disney Channel original movie. This time, we're going to be talking the 2009 Disney Channel original movie, The Princess Protection Program. Yeah, this came recommended solely based on who was in the movie. Yeah, this starred a young Demi Lovato and a young Selena Gomez back when they were Disney kids. At the time, Selena Gomez was starring on the Disney Channel show The Wizards of Waverly Place, and Demi Lovato had previously starred in the previous year's Disney Channel original movie, Camp Rock. So, yeah, Disney kids. So, we went with this movie to see kind of where they were then and you know, to where they are now. You know, Selena Gomez is pretty well for herself. A little TV show, you might have heard of it, called Only Murders in the Building. And Demi Lovato has a very, very good recording career, as does Selena Gomez. Lovato doesn't do much acting these days. It's mostly her music career. But yeah, she was in a movie, Emilia Perez, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, we're going to move swiftly on from that one.
So, yeah, that is kind of all I know about this movie. And then it's Princess, because Disney Princess. So, does that mean that Demi Lovato is a Disney princess?
After watching this movie, I have opinions on that. It might spoil the end of the podcast to reveal them now, though.
No, okay. We'll save all of that.
So let me ask you a question, because this was a first watch for both of us, and it did kind of come recommended just for the two leads. But when we looked this up on Disney Plus and we saw like the blurb that is written on Disney Plus, what did you think this movie was going to be like? Like, what kind of movie did you think you were going to be watching?
I thought I was going to get some sort of adaptation of, Prince and the Pauper. Only we would have the princess and the pauper, the posh princess and the, down-to-earth common girl switching places to protect the princess. And instead, we get more country mouse and the city mouse.
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be like, in order to protect the princess, we have to have somebody like of a similar age as the princess, I guess, or whatever. And like, it was going to be like Demi Lovato as the princess and Selena Gomez as her bodyguard, slash sort of double or not. Maybe a little bit of that Prince and the Pauper thing was kind of in my head too. But I really thought it was going to be like Selena Gomez is the secret agent, assigned to protect Demi Lovato as the princess. And boy, were we both really, really wrong on our expectations of this movie.
Yeah, like it would have been similar. We just watched Phantom Menace. So it would have been similar to Queen Amidala and her body doubles. It's just Selena Gomez being the body double for Demi Lovato.
Yeah, maybe. And not even that, but like I really expected her to be like the bodyguard secret agent that was like secretly a part of this princess protection program or something, And I think in either case, whatever we thought we were getting out of this movie was better than what we actually got out of this movie.
Yeah.
The main two we've already talked about, but Selena Gomez's dad, who is the one who actually is in the Princess Protection Program, shocker, is played by Tom Verica, who I kind of knew because I was forced to watch a lot of How to Get Away with Murder, and he was a main character in that. And then he ended up kind of hooking up with the Shondaland kind of production, and now he like directs and produces a lot of the Bridgerton stuff.
So he's transferred to behind the camera.
Yeah, it seems like he's mostly doing behind the camera now, but mostly for Shonda Rhimes stuff. The other one we've talked about kind of our, even though supposedly the General Kane, played by Johnny Ray Rodriguez, is supposed to be like the real bad guy of the story, the main villain of the story is like the high school girl Chelsea, and she's played by Jamie Chung, which we've talked about before because she's the voice of Go-Go Tamago. So there's your Big Hero 6 thing there. But there were two others that I noted, and one we've talked about before because she appears in freaking everything, and that's Dale Dickey. So she's back again in a kind of minor role here as the bus driver. But the one that really, really shocked me was Nicholas Braun, who he had apparently done Sky High before this, which I did not recognize him in that because I think last time, when we watched Sky High, I did not recognize him from anything yet. But now he's very recognizable because he was in this little show you may have heard of called Succession. Don't know if that one ever cracked your radar, the giant HBO. So he got nominated for an Emmy over and over and over again. But yeah.
So yeah, let's kind of get into what this movie is actually about. Lovato plays Princess Rosalinda, who is set to be crowned queen of the small nation of Costa Luna. As she says, a nation so small, most maps don't have it. This is recently after the passing of her father, a princess with a dead parent. This has to be a Disney movie.
Well, in fact, both girls seem to have a dead parent, although we never really get what happened to Selena Gomez's mom, except for a couple of sad glances between her and her dad.
Yeah, we haven't had a home-cooked meal since... Yeah.
Forever? Yeah, forever. Yeah, it's like there's a couple of things there, where they kind of allude to the fact that there is a missing mom, but yeah, that's kind of, I mean, who knows? Maybe the mom just like found another dude and ran off with him. Like, we don't even know. Like, she may not even be dead. All we know is she's not there and they're sad about it. But we do know very specifically that Princess Rosalinda, her father has died, because that's how you become the new ruler of a country under a monarchy, generally.
So yeah, Princess Rosalinda is set to be crowned queen. At the coronation rehearsal, the whole thing is interrupted by General Kane, the dictator of the neighboring nation of Costa Estrella, who wants to annex Costa Luna and kind of make his nation bigger.
He wants the stars and the moon too.
Yep. So in doing so, he wants to completely invade the country, take over the country, and put the ruling monarchy in jail while he takes over the country. Later in the movie, the princess's mother, she's never actually referred to as, I don't think she's ever referred to as queen in the movie.
I believe she is.
The princess's mother, the queen, says that the people will never acknowledge you as their ruler. And then he says, well, the last royal I overthrew said that 20 years ago, and here we are. So this is something that he's been doing for a while.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting expansionist plan there for the general, because he's apparently been the undisputed dictator of the neighboring nation for, 20 years. And now he wants to expand his territory and thinks that this is a good way to do it, a good time to do it, at least, in the transfer of power.
Not that he waited for the king to die before he started his plan. Makes you wonder that if the king was a more formidable threat to the general.
Well, from what we know of him, from what Rosie says, and I'll just call her Rosie from now on because that's what she's known for most of the movie as. From what Rosie says, her father was like really beloved by the people and like a really generous ruler and stuff like that, really tried to make the country a better place. And if that's true, then it would be, you know, very difficult to just come in and be like, hey, I've saved you from your king who you all love, But if you do take over in that kind of little bit between the transfer of power, one, you get to say like, well, I've stabilized the nation, which is kind of a laugh. But the one thing he does have going for him is she is a 16-year-old girl, and she's probably not capable of ruling a nation on her own, which, legit. Although, as we pointed out when we talked about Phantom Menace, which I didn't think we'd be bringing up so much during this episode, but here we are. I think a lot of us would take, 14, 16-year-old girl to be running most of the nations of the world right now.
Which makes me wonder, why doesn't the queen isn't in charge? Why does the power need to transfer to the princess? If it was a prince, there's the argument that can be made. But the fact that the queen is still alive and the power must be transferred to the princess.
She's not queen by right. She's queen by marriage. And there's a difference. We're
not going by Disney rules. We're actually going by actual monarchy rules.
Well, that seems to be what they're suggesting, is that, she would have just then become the queen mother and, maybe been an advisor to her daughter, but would have just lived there as, the widow of the former monarch. But we know that her mother, Queen Sophia, not royal by birth, because she mentions at one point during the movie, like, my mother was born a peasant, and then they don't go into that at all, other than, how do you know how to cook? Oh, well, my mother was born a peasant, so she taught me the family recipes. Like, all right. Weird.
I mean, if we're going, that's another, Disney trope, is like, the prince married the peasant girl. Now she's the princess. Now she's the queen and he's the king. And when you're a small nation, you got to work with what you got, I guess.
I mean, the thing is if the nation is as small as they suggest, like, who in there is going to be among the nobility to keep the, this is why all the tiny countries in Europe intermarried their royals for so long, is like, we only have a certain limited number of nobility in each, not to mention royalty, like, in each country, and it's gonna get really inbred really quick unless we start looking outside our own border.
Yeah.
But at least this one doesn't have the same rule as Genovia, where, like, well, for a princess to become queen, she has to be married to a man,
Which, all considered, I understand they would not have the money at this point in time, since we just talked Devil Wears Prada, to have Anne Hathaway make a cameo.
Would have been funny, yeah. Yeah, and the whole conceit of this movie is that there is a secret agency that is funded by royal families, specifically so that if the country is endangered, they can whisk their princesses away in order to protect the royal line.
Hundreds of princesses all over the world are protected by the Princess Protection Program. We see two of the princesses at the headquarters getting fitted to integrate into whatever hiding place they're going to send them to. We get a video of a princess from a very warm climate kingdom hiding out in a very cold climate place and not liking this.
Yeah, they seem to have just like sent her to like Inuit, some group of Inuits that were hiding her. Her not really fitting in very well. If the whole point of this program is to like send princesses to a place you would never expect them to be and have them blend into the local culture enough that nobody would realize that they're out of place and certainly not realize that they're princesses. It's like, why would you choose that one? Like, I get that it's there for a gag, but like, if you dig into that even just a tiny little bit, I'm like, they could have sent that poor girl to basically anywhere else along the equator and she would have fit in okay. But like, why would you send her to such a remote place where it would stand out so much,
And why just the princess protection program? Don't the princes deserve protecting as well?
Like, yeah, why isn't this like a monarchy protection program or a royal protection program or something,
Because we got to get alliteration in this movie.
I know. But the whole thing kicks off as Selena Gomez's dad, Major Mason, is sent from where he normally lives in the bayou of Louisiana to Costa Luna to rescue Princess Rosalinda. And then they were going to resettle her somewhere else, but she only trusts Major Mason because that was who her mother told her to trust, you know? And she's like, okay, I don't trust any of the rest of you people. I only trust this one guy. And they're like, okay, well, we have to send her home with you. You have to hide her until we can figure out a way to get her country back.
Yeah, they specifically say a legal way to get General Kane out of power. So, like, they're not going to send the U.S. Army to invade this country.
Well, it's like a non-governmental multinational thing. And it seems that their boss is like a Russian woman, which, as I pointed out to you off mic, makes perfect sense, as the Russians are known for keeping their royals completely safe and alive and healthy at all times.
Once upon a December.
Yeah. But, they've got all these agents from all over, and I'm like, why is there even a group of American agents in here other than, I guess, he's just a mercenary? Like, maybe he's just one of those guys that left the military and is like, I don't know how to deal with the outside world. I'm going to be a mercenary. But then you see he's got, like, a totally normal job in the outside world. Like, he runs a bait shop in the middle of Louisiana, nowhere, but, like, it seems successful enough. He's got a daughter. He's got... So...
And the daughter, Selena Gomez's character, Carter, is fully aware of what her father does for a living.
Yeah, when he tells her at the beginning of the movie, like, I've got a mission I've got to go off to, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, so y'all are not a secretive organization in the slightest. And then it's like, no, apparently they're like an ultra secretive organization, but his daughter knows exactly what he's doing at all times. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you want a secret kept, tell it to a teenage girl. They're notoriously great at keeping secrets. But yeah, so he has to take the princess, who they give the name Rosie to, Rosie Gonzalez, and she's supposed to be like Selena Gomez's cousin visiting from Iowa. And immediately she stands out because apparently princesses are also androids and they cannot use any contractions and they speak very robotically.
I do like that the two nations are both Spanish-speaking nations to kind of play into Demi Lovato being Latina, and also the cousin thing can make sense. Selena Gomez is Latina, though we don't know what the mother is, and Selena Gomez has played mostly white characters in her youth.
Yeah, I mean, the father is intensely white. He is like the whitest white guy that ever whited, but we assumed this is a cousin from her mother's side. But the funny thing is that, I mean, Demi Lovato is proud of her heritage and she does speak Spanish to, greater or lesser degree. But the thing is that this princess is supposed to be like a native Spanish speaker and has the most well, I mean, you've heard Demi Lovato speak, so it's just like her speaking her normal voice, but more formal English.
I
And
mean,
I was like, I don't know. It's like it would have been interesting for her to say like, well, I was educated by a bunch of, but no, apparently they just have like a multinational staff or something because
I
she
mean,
makes
it
sorry.
makes sense. It makes sense if she's going to be a royal that will deal internationally that she would speak English. I'm going to be honest. I'm glad that they didn't give Demi Lovato a have her speak English with a Spanish accent.
Well, wasn't that I wanted that. It's just that, you know, if this is a small island nation off the coast of the US and she's a royal, like it would have been very easy to say like, yeah, I went to boarding school for the first blah years of my life in wherever, but that would have kind of corrupted the plot in heavy quotation marks that they're trying to do later on in the movie, which is that like, oh, she's a princess. She can't fit in with, you know, American teenage culture. She sticks out like a sore thumb. But the thing is like, they also want to have it in the way of like, it's that Disney way of if you're truly royal and pure of heart, that will show through and people will respond to that. Because she shows up with the most awful personality, like 100% on Team Selena Gomez in the beginning of this movie. Because she meets the princess and she's like, wow, you are an awful person. Because, the princess comes in and of course it's supposed to be like, oh, this is my room, but we'll have to get rid of the extra bed. And Selena Gomez has to be like, no, that's my bed and we're sharing the bedroom. And the princess is like, share? Like she's never heard of the concept of sharing before.
Almost treating Carter as if she's a servant at the beginning of the movie.
Not almost. I mean, she very does. Like that first night, she's like, you may dress me for bed now. I will require a silk nightgown and it must be pink and it must be like. So, and she's absolutely horrible. And then she goes in and okay, yeah, like the kind of bully guy, Donnie, that they have that like Selena Gomez is supposed to have a crush on, but he treats her like crap and he maybe is dating kind of the like mean girl queen of the school. Anyway, like Donnie like gives up his seat for her in class and stuff because like what? She's hot. And I'm like, okay, but Selena Gomez is also hot by that same standard. Like.
But it's also, like she's the weird one because she works at the bake shop and she's not a girly girl. She's a tomboy.
Yeah. Yeah, she wears like jeans and stuff, and this girl wears, skirts and high heels and. But the thing is that like Rosie as a new student, like she impresses the teachers because she's very smart and she speaks several languages and, all that kind of stuff. And like she's pretty enough to get pretty privilege, but the thing is the way she treats everybody else is kind of horrible. So the fact that she becomes this like darling to just the random people at school, and I'm not talking about like after Selena Gomez like supposedly teaches her how to act or whatever. I'm talking about like within the first day, they're like, oh, she should be on the homecoming court. We should vote for her for like homecoming queen and stuff, and I'm like, she's literally the new girl in school, and she treats you all like you're the dirt beneath her shoe.
Considering that Chelsea, the mean girl, was the front runner to be homecoming queen, and she's just as mean and just as insensitive. So here's the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, except that's kind of not how it works. Like, everybody knows that Chelsea is from a rich family. There are presumably benefits for being on her good side. We don't really see it, but just the way social dynamics work. I mean, you don't follow a bully like that just because they're a bully usually. And Rosie isn't a bully. She's just like really highfalutin, I guess, to use a term that my grandparents would have used. You know, like, it's obvious that she thinks too much of herself, but at the same time, she's supposed to just be a girl from Iowa visiting her cousin. Like, they at least know that Chelsea's got some cred because they've known Chelsea for their entire school lives. This is a very small town in Louisiana, and they've all grown up together. So it's like, that Rosie has been making these connections to eventually get her to like winning, homecoming queen for years, because she says that's been like her life goal up until now. Is like, that crown is my birthright, and I know it's supposed to be like showing her in contrast to like the actual royalty, but that's kind of what we have here in the US, is just rich people that are like really mean and think everything should be theirs because they were born rich people. There's not really any difference between them and royalty.
Yeah, I do want to, since you mentioned Donnie, and that's been like Carter's big crush since she was 3 years old, I want to kind of flip on the other side and get into Carter's best friend, Ed, who very clearly has a crush on her.
Go away, Greg. He's such an awful person on Succession. Like, it's just like, you just hate him. He's such a little wormy dude.
And then, like I said, Ed quickly, again, within that first 24-hour period, is crushing on Rosie. Like, everyone is crushing on Rosie by the end of day one.
Well, she's royalty. Naturally, she is better than us. That is the Disney way.
Yeah. All that was missing is the cute little animal sidekick.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't a cute little animal sidekick in here. The only thing is at one point, Carter says, like, you're so good with people. You're good with old people. You're good with, like, babies. You're probably good with dogs. And Rosie says, that's true. So, like, apparently she is really good with animals. We just don't ever see it in the movie.
So, yeah. So the way this particular school handles homecoming is you get the vote for homecoming court, which is basically the finalists for the prince and princess. We're never given a homecoming king. I want to stress this out. There is no homecoming king in this school. It is just the homecoming queen and the homecoming princesses, because we really need to stress the princess part of this movie. So the way the homecoming court works is that we get, all the student body votes for whoever they want to be homecoming queen, and the three people with the biggest votes become homecoming princess, with the final vote happening at the homecoming dance. So I want to put that out there before we really get into it, which is it is very interesting. Usually it's just, vote for homecoming king and queen at the dance, and you vote for whoever.
Yeah, I mean, ours was because, homecoming is tied with football, and they never, brought up football once in this movie.
That's kind of the whole point of homecoming. It is the first home game of the team. That's why it's called homecoming.
But for us, like, at least at my high school, which was, everything revolved around football, everything in the South revolves around football, and Louisiana is a southern state. So I would kind of just assume the same at their high school. But like, if you're going to do a homecoming court, it's usually announced at the homecoming game. Even. Like, we had a homecoming dance, I think, maybe, but it wasn't like that big of a deal. Like, I don't even think I went or whatever. But, our big one was prom, and, we had the prom king and queen and everything. So that we did vote for at the dance, like you said, but like for our like homecoming king and queen and stuff like that, that was like announced at the game, and they would like crown them on the field and stuff. It wasn't even like at a dance. So
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of, there isn't a lot of plot in this movie, we're going to be honest, because this is a Disney Channel TV movie aimed at teenagers, and every single high school trope is in this movie. That's all I can say. So if you've seen these kind of movies, you kind of know the flow of the tropes. They're here.
yeah, it's like can she's a princess, but can she survive the mean girls? It's like that kind of thing.
Can they coexist?
But
like the down to earth country girl, I guess we'll say that, versus the posh royal girl and their culture clashes.
Which aren't even so much culture clashes, it's supposed to be like, they learn from each other and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, the thing is like, you do have a little bit of a character arc for the princess character in this. Like, she does learn a little bit more about the real world and, all this kind of stuff. And maybe treating people as equals and whatever. But like Selena Gomez's, everyday girl character has zero arc in this. Like, other than learning, like, oh, you can put on makeup and be pretty sometimes and feel like a princess. And there's like a whole montage about Rosie teaching Carter that, well, real princesses help other people. And so they just do a bunch of charity work. Like, they go to read to kids at the library, and they go take a bunch of stuff to the thrift store to, sell or, to donate to the thrift store. And they do like a couple other things that's like very obvious, like, we are doing charity work. And it's like, okay, but it wasn't like Carter was a selfish person who needed to learn the value of charity.
I think it's more of, oh, she's a princess, she's a spoiled rich girl. And then as she gets to know Rosie more, she knows that she actually cares about her country. She cares about her people. She's not this spoiled rich girl. She wants to protect her people. She wants to go back to her country and topple General Kane and be the ruler that her father was.
Okay, but literally, how is that Carter's arc? Like, what is the lesson she learns by the end of this movie? Be nicer to princesses?
I think it's that it's harder to be a princess than she thinks it is.
Okay, and that lesson is going to carry forth in her life how?
Closest thing we get to an arc is that she figures out that her crush Donnie is a jerk, and I deserve better than this jerk.
Yeah, that's kind of the only time where you're like, okay, she actually learned something, because there is that one kind of bit where right after Donnie ends up asking Rosie to the homecoming dance as his date, which is what Carter had been hoping for. We know from like the first scene in the movie. When he comes to buy bait on his way to school, who the hell buys live bait on their way to school? Like, what you gonna do? You gonna leave it in your car and let it bake and die while you like spend all day?
It is high school, so maybe he was planning some sort of prank.
I mean, if so, we never see it. It's just this like hey, I'm coming by to like buy bait from you. And she's like, oh, well, free bait as long as you give me a ride to school. And then Chelsea and her little mean girl, you know, hanger on that, she's got like this little hench girl that hangs out with her. But, the two of them are already in his. Of course, he's the douchebag that drives a convertible in high school. And she was like, there's no seat for me. And they're like, oh, well, bye. Thanks for the
Yeah,
free
because they had
bait.
just so because the Mean Girls had just bought their prom dresses, and they're in the car, so there's no room for Carter because we have the dresses.
Yeah, but, it's like, okay, who cares, But she's like super in love with this guy, and she tells Rosie, like, oh, he was my first kiss in third grade and whatever. And I've been like, and the thing is that every time he sees her, he doesn't remember her name. And then you find out, yeah, he calls her Bait Girl. And she always has to remind him, like, oh, my name is Carter. And he's like, right, right, right. But the thing is that by the end of the movie, like, by the time they're at the dance, that, like, he's just been doing that to be a douche to her the entire time. Because, like, he absolutely knows that she had a massive crush on him. He absolutely, knows that he's been stringing her on and everything. And she even says, like, until I put this dress on to come to the dance, because now she's like looking full Selena Gomez, in her complete, Selena Gomez aura. And she's like, before I put this dress on for the dance, you couldn't even remember my name and all. But he counters with, like, this is what you've wanted ever since we kissed in third grade or what. Like, so he knows exactly who this girl is and why she has a crush on him and their whole history together. Like, so he's been doing this for years just to be a douche to her. And I was like, ugh. And Carter's whole thing, when Rosie says, like, well, if he's not treating you well, then he doesn't deserve you. And she's like, okay, we're not all princesses. Some of us don't really get to, like, he's the hot rich guy, the hot popular rich guy, and I'm bait girl, you know, I don't really have options. And Rosie has to be like, no, if he doesn't treat you like royalty, then you're not worthy of him.
Girl, Ed is right there. He is right there. He has been by your side this entire time, and you're just completely ignoring him.
Well, also, Ed is really creepy. Let's just point that out, because he follows her around all the time with a camera. And even though she's like, do not film me, he keeps filming her and stuff like that, I think the reason Ed falls for Rosie so quickly is because Ed is doing that documentary, he says. I think it's just a way for him to film girls. Tell me it's not, though. Like, tell me where in the movie it's kind of not. There is a thing where he says he's been paid to make this by Chelsea, but you have a feeling he'd be the dude that would be doing this anyway.
Mm.
She's probably just like, Ed, you're the weirdo that's always trying to film us in the locker room anyway. Why don't I pay you to make a documentary about me becoming homecoming queen? But, he he greets them, like, the way we meet Ed is, like, he greets them coming off the bus with a camera in their face, and he's like, I'm filming, all the potential future princesses and whatever. And Rosie has no idea what he's talking about. So he says something about, like, well, how about you? Are you ready to be queen? And she's like, not yet, but soon. And he's like, oh, you're very self-assured. You're very confident. And I like that in a woman. In fact, that seems to be his thing, is like, he just wants a woman to boss him around.
He likes strong women. Guy after my own heart.
Yeah, he likes strong women, quote unquote. Uh-huh.
He's definitely a step on me mommy type.
Well, I wasn't going to go there because they are still playing teenagers in this movie, but that he was going to like graduate and get into college and have an experience and be like, but yeah, no, he like, so when she just shows up and she's just like, you can open the door for me, you can, whatever. And she doesn't like insult him. She's just like, thank you. Or treats him like, okay, I expect you to do this. And that's what, he kind of falls in line because of things just said. And I think that the reason why Carter and Ed had not worked out before is Carter isn't really that type of chick, you know? She keeps telling Rosie, like, maybe you should carry your own stuff like a normal person, and all. And the thing is that Carter could have very much used, because it's very obvious that she has some form of pretty privilege as well, you know? And if she'd played into that, she could have been somebody like Chelsea or, you know, to a lesser extent, Rosie, in just the fact of like, well, I just expect people to do things for me,
But she seemingly doesn't want it. Like when Rosie nominates Carter for Homecoming Queen, she feels insulted by it.
Well, she thinks it's shallow, and, you know, it kind of mostly is, there's a reason of the trope of like, it's the popular rich girls fighting over the homecoming crown or whatever, And so it's a thing that those kind of girls want. And so Carter's like, okay, well, it's just shallow and whatever. But, the school says that like, oh, this is supposed to be somebody you're voting for who is like exemplary character and very helpful and which I don't know about your school, but my school, we never heard any of that crap. It's like, just pick somebody popular and vote for them,
Yeah. I mean, the only other, I guess, character moment is, Rosie in an attempt to be more like a normal teenager, gets a job. Because Carter has a job. She works at her dad's bake shop and she tries to get a job and she ends up working at Chelsea's dad's frozen yogurt stand, which apparently is how she got rich.
Well, she mentions that her dad owns like all of these frozen yogurt franchises throughout the area. So, I mean, yeah, that would give somebody in that kind of area a little bit of money.
And then just embarrasses her. Doesn't teach her how the machines work. Doesn't teach her anything. And just, yeah. And the entire thing is just an excuse to embarrass her because she's competition now. Since she's nominated for Homecoming Queen. She's competition and she's going to embarrass her and get all of the students to go to the Froyo stand and just take their phones out and record her embarrassing herself. And the fact that this is 2009, this is almost 20 years ago. Yeah, that's how long people have been using their cell phones to film random stuff.
Considering that they all had those like, flip phones still in the movie, that's not even what she's like wanting. She's not even wanting them there to record it. She's texting all of her friends to be like, literally show up and mock her and berate her and stuff to her face. It's not even like, I'm going to take a video of this and put it on YouTube and like, haha. Because at one point I thought that was how she was going to get found out. Like, some video of hers was, and then I was like, yeah, but like, YouTube had just started and not everybody had a phone in their pockets, and going viral in that sense wasn't really as much of a thing in 2009 as it is now. Like we had it a bit, but it was like much rarer. You weren't like, you're the Twitter main character of the day or whatever, And also the fact that her being exposed kind of happens the way that it does did make me laugh. I will give the movie this point in that like the princess protection program. I always want to say the Princess Protection Agency because that seems better to me, but I guess we wanted PPP. So anyway.
PP, ha.
Yeah, and then we threw a third one in there. But the bosses there contact Major Mason and are like, hey, we're really worried because there's like a news story that's gotten out because the general has announced he's going to marry the Queen Mother, Sophia. And he thinks that if he puts that out into the press, then Rosie will see that and have to return to save her mother from this horrible marriage. The thing is like apparently that's what she would do, like, because she does find the magazine, but the little sidekick to Chelsea, the little mean girl sidekick, goes to the library and is like, give me something to read, but not anything that's too, educational. I want something with like big pictures.
Well, she's studying for Spanish class, so she wants something that she can read in Spanish, but nothing that's too complicated in Spanish. So she gets a bunch of Spanish language magazines from the library, and that's what she finds out.
Yeah, and she recognizes her and she's like, "Wait, Princess Rosalinda?" She said, "I can't really my favorite thing in there is when she says, "I can't really read it that well, but like her mother is either in prison or what's the other one she mistook it for?"
Paper
She said
bag.
she says she's either in prison or a paper bag. I always get those two confused. She apparently went to the Peggy Hill School of Spanish.
Yeah,
Your Honor, I see
but
that you are a reasonable horse. It's always been one of my favorite Peggy Hill lines. But anyway.
yeah. So as this all is happening, trying to keep it a secret from Rosie, because if she does find out, she's going to go back, and then as soon as she gets there, the general's going to put her in jail, and then there's no one to stand up to him. There's no governing body that will
There's no
prevent.
hope, is what
Yeah,
they
there's
keep
no hope for the
saying.
country. Yeah, there's no hope for the country.
Well, the people will have nothing to fight for. The idea is that, like, if she's a princess in exile, then the, revolutionaries or whatever on the ground could still be like, we are fighting to restore the rule of our princess in exile. But, like, the idea would be, like, if he's got them both in prison, and I think the only reason is they say in prison instead of he's going to execute them, which is probably realistically what would happen, is that because this is a Disney Channel original movie for like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
I know that you said teenagers, but let me tell you, anytime they make something like this that's like, it's set in a high school and it's made for, it's got teenagers in the starring role, that is absolutely for like 7 to 10-year-olds. Because when you're like between 7 and 10 and you look at a teenager, you're like, wow, they're so grown up. I want to be just like them, And then when you're a teenager, like by the time I was 16, I was not watching stuff like this. Like even though this came out, like there were movies like this and stuff when we were kids, but like by the time I was 16, I was not going to be watching, hey, do you want to see about princesses on TV? It's like in a mainstream Disney movie, yes, I would do that. But like for a little TV comedy like this, no. It wouldn't have been where I was at, It's like
Yeah,
by the
fair
time
enough.
you're 16, you want to be watching like college kids or actual adults or something, But I think that's the reason why they keep saying in prison there. Like I said, the one thing I will give the movie is that there is a really funny moment, and it's the only time where I think I really laughed, which was like, they were like, oh, he's put it out in the press that he's gonna marry her mom, and he's thinking that'll lure her out of hiding and everything. You have to make sure that she doesn't hear this story. And they're like, do you know if she has any enemies that could want to like expose who she is? And he's like, no, she doesn't have any enemies. And then it immediately cuts to the mean girls having just found the magazine. It's like
Yeah,
nobody
and
is more evil than a high school chick. Like, My
Yeah, and
goodness.
since she's so obsessed with becoming homecoming queen, she confronts Rosie and says, "Yeah, we know who you are. We know why you're here. We won't say anything, but we want you to step down. You renounce your nomination for homecoming queen."
Yeah, and in fact, you don't even go to the dance, and Carter doesn't go to the dance either because Carter was the one that got the third princess spot in the vote over and above the little mean girl sidekick. It was supposed to be the two mean girls and then random third girl. We don't really care who gets it because the two of us are really who is important. And then Chelsea's going to win, of course.
Yeah, I mean, she even arranges some of the students to purposely vote Carter as a joke. Instantly, once they mention that, it's like, oh, they're going to pull a Carrie, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that might have been why they were signing up live bait, in fact, who knows. But the thing is that they were supposed to the little sidekick was supposed to text out like, hey, vote for Carter instead of Rosie. And then Carter and Rosie get the other two spots. And so it's Chelsea and Carter and Rosie as the finalists for, homecoming queen. And so Chelsea is like, no, I must destroy the both of them,
Even ruining their freshly bought homecoming dresses that they bought in this montage that happened just a few minutes prior.
Yeah, they're at the thrift store and they find dresses at the thrift store to wear to the homecoming dance. But, you know, Rosie is like, no, I have to go home. My mother is in danger and everything. And Carter's like, no, it's too dangerous. You'll be put in jail as soon as you go back and everything. And so Carter comes up with this plan. And I really do not know what the end result of this plan was going to be if the movie had not ended up the way the movie ends up.
So yeah, earlier in the movie, Carter is told by her dad to share some of her clothes with Rosie because she just came with whatever clothes she had on her back. She didn't have anything else. So share some clothes with her so she can look like a normal American teenager. Well, what's your size? I don't know my size. My clothes are custom made for me. If I ever have a clothing emergency, I can always depend on him. So that is what gives Carter the idea. I don't know how she got this guy's phone number, but like, oh, this is an emergency then. Yeah, so she calls the royal fashion person,
Mr. Elegante.
yeah, and informs him of the plan to emergency create two homecoming dance dresses and then speed deliver them to Louisiana, but also saying, hey, immediately after that, Mr. Royal Dress Man immediately tells the general, so we're thinking, oh, he's betrayed the princess. Oh no. Gets thrown out really quickly, says, oh no, I was told to make two dresses.
Yeah, because he says, like, she wants a dress to wear to a homecoming dance, and she called me, and I told her I would make it in this beautiful blue, Caribbean blue, and all, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go get the princess. She'll be the one wearing the Caribbean blue dress. And then it turns out that no, the blue dress was actually for Carter. And Rosie gets a pink dress because she's mentioned throughout the entire movie that most of her clothes are pink because pink is, the color that goes best with her skin, according to her dressmaker and whatever. Anyway. And so like Carter comes up with this whole plan, which is like her and Rosie, and then all of the girls that are kind of like the nerdy, not pretty, unlikable girls, from the school that we've kind of seen in the background of the movie.
A lot of them are abused by Chelsea, yeah. She doesn't even bother to remember their names.
Yeah, but so like they get all of these girls and they give them like princess etiquette classes, and then they get Dale Dickey to come in and help them do their hair and makeup because I guess She's not only a bus driver, she's also a beautician. Go figure.
Small town, sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but so she, goes in and they get all these girls beautified and stuff, and then they put masks on them, which like doesn't make any sense for the dance. Like, I don't know how she was like, and then we'll be masked, and all the other girls were like, okay, because it's not like a mask ball or anything.
Yeah, even Chelsea says, why is everyone wearing masks? This is not a masquerade dance. But the masks are there for a reason.
Well, the masks are there so the plot can happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I don't know like why she's like, I don't know how, in other words, they convince all these girls like, yeah, we're going to do your makeup the best it's ever been, and then you're going to go to a ball that's not a mask ball, but wearing masks. How about that? Like, no, I've just spent like 4 hours getting my makeup done. Unless the dance requires a mask, I'm not putting a mask on.
I think they, because the girls end up taking out their masks off once they get inside the dance. So I think it's just for the entrance.
Yeah, maybe.
Because since they wrangled the bus driver, they get the school bus, and all the girls are walking off the school bus in these very pretty dresses and these masks, and like every boy in the school is looking at them. It's literally for the entrance.
Did they say, like, let's put them on again before they announce the winner? And I'm like, okay, but why are, like, 15 girls putting on masks? Like, in the logic of the movie, why would all the other, like, 14 girls or whatever that they've dragged along with them on the school bus put on the masks again to be like, it could be any one of us? Like, no, it's literally a vote between 3 girls. Like, like at most you're gonna have it between the 2 girls who we know, and they've been dancing all night without masks, so it's like pretty obvious which girl is which at this point.
But the general doesn't know, which is the important thing.
Yeah, and the general busts in right about the time they announce the thing, but he sneaks in somehow. Like, nobody's gonna notice just a large group of uniformed, out-of-place adult men wandering into this dance. Like, we know Chelsea is stupid.
The head of a foreign nation is sneaking into the United States to go to a high school dance.
Yeah. Like, just because the CIA isn't going to overthrow him doesn't mean that they're not keeping tabs on him,
They are about to announce who the homecoming queen is. And like we've mentioned, Carter is wearing the blue dress. General Kane was specifically told that the princess would be wearing a blue dress. So he takes Carter. Come on, princessa. We have a flight to catch. So what is Carter's big plan? It's that she will allow herself to be kidnapped to protect Rosie because that's what princesses do.
But she didn't have a plan after this moment, it seems. Like, there's no plan for her to be like, she tells her father later, it's skipping ahead just a little bit. She tells her father that, like, I always know you'll be there for me. So, like, I assume that if she had a plan at all, it was, well, as soon as I'm kidnapped, then Rosie will realize it and tell my dad, and my dad and the Princess Protection Program will come and bust me out of the,
Well, at some point, General Kane's going to take that mask off her face and realize this is not the princess.
Yeah, it's just, he doesn't do it, like, it just, like, leaves the mask on her, because she doesn't say anything. She just goes willingly with him and everything. And he doesn't want to make a fuss in the dance, but, like, they're outside of the dance, and he's lecturing her on, like, oh, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail, and haha, you came back for your mother, and whatever. And like, they're alone by that point. There's nobody else there, and they're heading back to a helicopter. They're like, oh, there's going to be a helicopter to meet us, behind the school and everything. And at no point does he be like, and we can get rid of this stupid mask now, because the movie has to happen.
And as this is happening, Rosie is crowned homecoming queen.
And she gives a sweet little speech about, I learned something today, you guys. And what I learned was that Carter is the bestest. Where are you, Carter? And then nobody cares, and they start to play the music. I'm not joking. That's literally what happens. Like, it made me laugh so hard. She's like, where are you, Carter? And it, like, the music starts up, and all the kids just start dancing, and, like, the principal kind of shoves her off stage, like, okay, we've done the whole, like, crowning the homecoming court thing. Get off stage,
No one in that school cares about Carter, but Chelsea is angry. Like, give me that crown. That is mine. I am owed that. Like, it's her obsession is she wants that crown.
How soon did you clock what was going to happen when they're standing by the pool and she's like, and I'm like, oh, look.
I thought that Rosie was going to throw the crown into the pool and then she was going to go after it.
And, I thought it was going to be the typical kind of like, girly girl cat fight, and then, she trips and falls into the pool or something. But, like, immediately, it's like the two of them in their formal dresses standing by the pool, and I'm like, somebody's going into that pool, and I doubt they're going to, like, spend the rest of the movie with Demi Lovato soaked from the pool, But, yeah, instead it was just like, it's like, give me that crown. It's like, oh, you want it? And she, like, holds it over the pool, and like Chelsea stretches to get it and then falls in the pool. Like, Chelsea is the biggest idiot in this.
I mean, she gets her. I mean, that was her getting her comeuppance. She's so obsessed with this crown that she's willing to do anything for it. Even, she falls in the pool and all that. And Rosie runs to the chopper. She somehow knows where it is to kind of say, hey.
It's probably the place that has, like, the giant helicopter sound coming from it.
Yeah.
Helicopters are famously, very quiet and stealthy.
But yeah, she comes there and reveals herself and, yeah, that's not the princess. I'm the princess, and how dare you? And so now General Kane gets the real princess, puts her on the helicopter, but lo and behold, General Mason is there, and the other Princess Protection Program people are already on the chopper, and they arrest General Kane and his men. I'm pretty sure there's some diplomatic immunity going around here that probably might go against all of this, but it's a movie, it's a TV movie for kids, and we need to wrap this up. But, almost like a horror movie, Chelsea comes back for one last time, like, give me that crown, as Rosie is about to give the homecoming queen crown to Carter, as because of her bravery, she deserves to be homecoming queen. And they just give it to Chelsea because, as Carter says, she needs it more than we do because she is obsessed with this crown. She has been obsessed with this crown her entire life, and that's what she wants. That's all she wants, is that homecoming crown on her head. I can only imagine the adult this young woman is going to grow up to become. Some people never leave high school, and that's definitely going to be Chelsea in her adult life.
Well, and also, I just, knowing how things went after this, you know that she was going to be one of the first people to, like, become an influencer or something, She'd be the type of person, like, in the restaurant going, like, but can't you comp me the meal? I have, like, 20,000 followers on Insta,
I'm going to give you a 1-star review on Yelp if you don't comp my meal.
Yeah, she's going to be that chick for the rest of her life.
So let's go forward here as we're back at the official coronation as Princess Rosalina becomes Queen Rosalinda. And not only is Carter there, but Ed is also there. Why is Ed at the coronation?
I don't know. Maybe he's one of their boyfriends.
Is she Carter's plus one?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? There is no reason for the both of. I mean, yeah, I could be like, all right, you've invited the Masons, the father and the daughter, the father saved you and the daughter saved you, and like, okay, yeah. And it's like, and then Ed is there? Like, what?
Long live Queen Rosie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how the movie ends. She becomes queen. Long live Queen Rosalinda. And yeah, that's it.
And there's a duet, because they're Disney kids and they both sing, so they had to have a duet. It's called One and the Same. It's okay. It was written by Vitamin C. It's kind of the most interesting thing about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't realize that Vitamin C was still around and writing music for anything in 2009. Okay.
But yeah, apparently the only other thing of note is the Costa Luna scenes were filmed in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I mean,
that is literally the last bit of note of this movie.
Well, apparently, like, when it came out, they Disney Channel did a promotion where, like, if you could correctly count the number of words, the number of times they said the word princess, princesses, or princessa during the movie, and you entered that number into a spot on the Disney Channel website, it would reward you with, like, extra episodes of Wizards of Waverly Place that hadn't been aired yet.
That's one thing to do.
And I'm like, that's a lot of work to go through for some stuff that was going to be on Disney Channel in like a month anyway. So
I've lived through eras, around this time of people literally sharing recordings of TV shows, American TV shows that had episode aired first overseas. And so, yeah, I can kind of get it.
Well, no, but I mean, like, even in 2009, it wasn't like, Twitter wasn't as huge and everything, but like the second that one person figured out what the right number was, like that was just going to be all over the internet. It was just going to be like, hey, go to this Disney Channel website and enter, 147 or whatever the number was, and it's just like, and once you enter that number, it'll show you the episodes,
I will say, I do like that, this is a movie with two young Latina women or two young girls, Latina girls, in the lead. And yeah, with part of the movie being filmed in Puerto Rico, for them using Spanish for a good chunk of this movie, I liked it. I liked that aspect of it. And the fact that, Demi Lovato gets to speak Spanish, and no Spanish from Selena Gomez in this movie. But that part I did like. The Disney Channel made a movie, yes, with two of their popular stars of the era, but also fully playing into their Latin heritage. So I dig that. Now that we've talked about the movie completely, Kiki, I will reiterate the question I said at the beginning of the podcast. Does this make Demi Lovato a Disney princess?
I would say no, because the movie sucks. I mean, I'm sorry if this is your, like, happy little, nostalgia bit from your childhood or whatever, dear listener. I'm not meaning to yuck your yum, but this is a very thin plot. It's very difficult to talk about just as a movie, And Demi Lovato is not bad in the princess role. I mean, she's not the greatest actress. There's a reason why Demi Lovato has gone more the singing career and Selena Gomez has stuck more with acting. Like, Selena Gomez is a much better actor than Demi Lovato. Let's just put it out there. I like Demi Lovato's music, actually. So, I think they've kind of ended up in the correct field, Like, I like Selena Gomez's acting. I like Demi Lovato's music. I think that they've chosen to focus on the correct things for them. The thing where this is really, really Disney and Disney princessy is how it wants to have that fairy tale idea of, like, Donnie, look at him. He's handsome enough to be a prince, And I'm like, have you actually like seen pictures of a lot of real world princes and kings and stuff? They didn't get there by being attractive, you know?
I mean, King Charles is not exactly a looker.
I mean,
Even in his younger days.
There were people who thought he was, and if that's your thing, that's your thing. But, I'm just talking about like just in general, there are, thankfully a dwindling number of royal families in the world by this point. But, if you look at the ones that still exist, they're not exactly, if it wasn't for all the money and the grooming and the, you know, plastic surgery probably and definitely the clothing, then you would probably not look twice at most of them. But, the other things of like, oh, a princess has to be kind and caring and, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, but wasn't this supposed to be more like, I mean, the tagline for this movie is supposed to be royalty meets reality. And I'm like, right.
I think it tries to do it both ways in that it tries to have the actual royalty aspect of princess, but also go into the Disney princess definition of a princess, as in having a pure heart, willing to look out for others,
able to talk to birds, princess stuff.
It's why like Mulan is considered a Disney princess, because she is strong and she is brave and she looks out for others. So Carter is that kind of a princess.
Yeah, it's the form of princess where the term princess has no meaning. It's like
this movie, again, whether this, I mean, you already said it, but I'll say it myself. This movie does not have the magic because this is all fluff. This is a movie that was made specifically because Selena Gomez was on a very popular Disney Channel TV show. Let's put her in this TV movie, and people who watch that show will watch this movie. Demi Lovato, she was in a very popular Disney movie the previous year. Let's put her in this movie, and people who liked Camp Rock will watch this movie. And that is literally all they had going into this movie. And let's play up the Disney princess name. Not even the brand, just the name Disney princess.
Yeah.
There's nothing else here. This is fluff. This is by the numbers, high school tropes with a little bit of I learned something, opposites learning things from each other story. Yeah.
They're not opposites. They found out they were one and the same Tuesday. One and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not going to come back.
I loves me some fluff, but this isn't even like enjoyable fluff. I found myself checking out during this and having to rewind it a couple of times because I'm like, I completely zoned out during the it's not a complex plot. It's barely a plot at all. But man, I just found myself getting so bored. It was like that. It was like that Nick Fury movie, where it's like, oh man, I should be interested in what's going on the screen. So to me, it's less that it's fluff and more that it's boring.
Well, we have always said the worst thing a movie can be is boring, and there's not a lot of boring here. Like I said, the only interesting aspect of this movie is that it features young Selena Gomez and young Demi Lovato basically at the start of their careers.
I'll say you can see that Selena Gomez is heading somewhere. I would not have guessed that what's his name, Nicholas Braun, was heading anywhere from this movie. But yeah, him and Selena Gomez are the two that have gotten like the best careers of anybody in this movie.
And yeah, Demi Lovato choosing primarily to focus on her music career over her acting career was the best.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you like us are skimming through Disney Plus and you're like, oh wow, it's got these two names that we like, then yeah, this is maybe not. Go watch them separately in other things. because it's two great tastes. They go fine together, but they're better in other things separately.
I will say I probably, if point a gun to my head, I probably watch this movie again than Amelia Perez.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would recommend everybody watch this movie over Amelia Perez.
But I think that's all we can say about this movie. So let's move on to next week. Kiki, the summer is just getting started, but we're going to school. We're not just going to any school. We're going to university. It is time, Kiki, as we go to attend Monsters University. Yes, we've talked about Monsters Inc. also long ago, and we talked about the original Monsters Inc. 2 that Disney had planned before they bought out Pixar. So let's talk about the actual Monsters Inc. 2, the actual sequel to this movie. If Monsters Inc. was the Sully movie, Monsters U is definitely the Mike Wazowski movie.
And I will say that this one's going to be a first watch for me. I kind of missed the entire Monsters franchise when it was the big thing.
I do have a story with this I'm going to share next week. So
Cannot
I'm really
wait.
we're going to look forward to that. So come back next week for Monsters University, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.